Okay guys, you know what this is, you know what we're doing. I'm not even gonna do an intro. Just watch me skip this intro right now. Alright, first on our list is Benelli, specifically with Benelli's Leoncino bike. I think that's how you say that. Now this may be the least of all the retro bikes, like the least retro of all the motorcycles on this list, but it definitely has a retro flavor. Benelli is an Italian but currently Chinese owned company making lots of different styles of motorcycles, but this bike is really their sort of scrambler retro styled motorcycle. This is powered by a 500cc parallel twin, producing a solid 47 horsepower, and the bike weighs around 450 pounds. All those specs are great for me except for the weight. That's plenty of weight for a bike of this power and size. But regardless, this is a really cool looking sort of neo-retro bike that's pretty affordable at about $6,800 MSRP. I'm not sure what the details are for getting one of these in the UK or in the US, but it's definitely a good option. Alright, next up we have Brixton Motorcycles, and this is a very interesting company. It's got a thoroughly British sounding name and British looking bikes, but it's actually an Austrian company that is currently manufactured in China. Now Brixton, like many of the other companies on this list, makes small capacity bikes, mainly 125 and 250cc air-cooled bikes, though Brixton has ventured out into making a 500cc liquid-cooled parallel twin, though that bike is a little bit more neo-retro in style with LED lights and sort of looks like a Husqvarna Svartpillen or Vitpillen. That bike produces about 47 horsepower, which isn't bad for a liquid-cooled parallel twin 500cc engine. That bike does weigh about 420 pounds wet, which again isn't bad, but it's not that great. This is reportedly $7,000 US. Now if you can figure out how to get one here, I don't know what that's gonna cost, but I'm sure you probably can if you're really determined enough. Of course, Brixton produces those smaller capacity air-cooled bikes, which are right in line in terms of price and specs as most of the other bikes on this list. But that in-house 500cc liquid-cooled bike is really interesting to me because I've said multiple times that I really think Triumph should make a 500cc, basically baby Bonneville, and that's sort of what this is. But it's tough to justify that price when you think about the fact that you could get, for example, a street twin for just a couple thousand more, and of course you're getting way more bike, you're getting more power, you're getting a Triumph, you're getting, you know, the best fit and finish basically in the world of motorcycling, and you're getting that support from a legit dealership. I'd like to see a bike like that run you more like $5,000, for example, but I realize how difficult that is for smaller manufacturers. Here it's all about the style and what you find appealing, and maybe having something really unique that looks retro is more important and you're willing to spend a little more money for it. Alright, next up we have Mash Motorcycles. Now Mash is actually a French motorcycle company producing 50 to 650cc motorcycles, ranging all the way up to about 5,500 euros in price, so really not too expensive. Now just to look at one, this Mash 500, which is actually a 400cc bike, not sure what's up with that. Anyways, this will run you 4,200 euros, so about $4,800. This has a max power of 27 horsepower, which isn't great honestly, and the weight is 151 kilograms dry, so 330 dry. That's not too bad. All in all, the specs are pretty good. The route maybe for a company like this might be to just get one of the 50cc bikes that weigh virtually nothing, but you know, only have a 45 kilometer per hour top speed. They're not going to be fast, but they're proper motorcycles. They have gears and everything. So if you're wanting something cheap and cool, maybe go that route with this company, or maybe go with one of, you know, any of the other smaller capacity versions that they have. Now this one is a true British company, Herald Motor Company. I do find it kind of funny calling yourself a motor company when you outsource your engine from Suzuki, but I digress. Now all of Herald's range of 125cc, 400 and 500cc, out of all of them, I find the classic 125 to actually be the most appealing in terms of style. It's more sleek with a smaller gas tank and just sort of less mass in general, and that's what actually drew me to the old Triumph that I bought versus, you know, some of the newer ones. That's my number one problem with the current Bonneville range from Triumph. They're bulky, you know, they're kind of thick looking, and I like how sleek the older Triumphs are. This bike really does look like an old British bike, and one of my favorite aspects is that pea shooter exhaust. I just think it looks awesome on this bike. Now in terms of performance, this is basically a Grom. It's a bit heavier, but has about the same power. It just looks so much better. It's got the dual clocks at the top. It's beautiful, honestly, and I would definitely go with black, no doubt. Now if you live in the UK and you're choosing between a Grom and this, come on, this is actually cheaper than a Grom, just 3,100 US, or you know, 2,300 pounds. That's cheaper than a Grom, I'm pretty sure. Man, I wish there were more American companies making little bikes like this, because I would 100% get one. So if you're out there, Herald or any of these other companies, and you want to hook me up with one of your bikes to try out, even though I'm not, in Europe, yeah, I want this little bike. I really like it. Okay, next up we have CCM Motorcycles, and CCM is another British company with a bit of a different take on retro bikes. These are super cool, more neo-retro and even bobber-esque bikes. I'm just going to pick one for you guys. I'm gonna look at the Spitfire Bobber because it has white walls. Who does that? White wall wheels on a motorcycle. Now we're in a different realm with CCM. These are more custom, sort of crazy awesome, like steel trellis frames, upside down forks. This is a higher spec bike than anything else we're looking at, and it uses Husky's 600cc single, which is a great engine for just like all purpose basically. For sure you're getting a bigger, better bike here that produces, well, it only produces 55 horsepower, so it's honestly not that crazy, but it's really torquey in the low RPMs, and it's only 300 pounds dry, which is pretty insane for a 600cc bike. It'll run you 10,000 pounds or about $13,500, so quite expensive, but this is a thoroughly custom bike with awesome specs. It's a limited run as well, so maybe you consider something like this to be a good investment. Only 500 of these are being made. I would recommend checking out their site. There's some really cool bikes that are coming out from CCM, and it's really beautifully done. It's a really nice website with lots of great big pictures. Like all the companies, check out the link for this one in the description below. All right, next we have Bluroc Motorcycles, formerly known as Bullet Motorcycles. They apparently just changed their name. I'm not sure what's up there. Regardless, Bluroc, that's not a good name now that I think about it. Bluroc? Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Anyways, they make small capacity V twin bikes, which isn't something you see very often, and they also make single 125cc and 250cc engines. They're headquartered in Belgium, which is really cool, and I'm sure these are outsourced engines like many of the other companies on here, but regardless, these bikes have tons of like style and personality. The Hero 250 is a really cool looking little bike. These are liquid cooled engines, by the way, so we know, these aren't just those same Suzuki air-cooled engines, and so I'm not sure where they outsource these. I wasn't able to find it, or maybe they do make their own engines, I don't know. Now this 250cc engine produces 26 horsepower, which is not bad at all, and has a dry weight of 326 pounds. Again, not bad, relatively close to my old Triumph 500. I'm seeing locations around the UK, and I think that they're priced around 3,500 pounds, which is about $4,700. So if that is the price, that's not bad at all. Really cool, original looking little retro bikes. I would absolutely ride a bike like this. All right, next up is a company I'm sure many of you have heard of, and this one stands out from many of the other motorcycles on this list. We're talking about Norton. Norton has had a long, crazy history and a really crazy recent history, especially relating to ownership and production. But regardless, Norton appears to be on a better path, and let's face it, their retro styled offerings are stellar. Okay, the more that I'm looking at this now, checking out their website, it looks like they just took all the other bikes off except for their new V4 SV, which is pretty sweet, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, it looks like their retro style, their classic style bikes aren't on the site anymore, which is odd. They must not be making them anymore. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave this one in because the bikes they were showcasing were incredible, but I find it surprising that they're not on there anymore. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, last we have FB Mondial Motorcycles, or FB Mondial, and in making this video, I actually decided to move them all the way up from like number 5 to number 1. I'm really interested in this company. They're really doing something cool. Now, like many of the bikes on this list, this is a company that has a long history, in this case an Italian history, but now since its rebirth, they've been making small capacity bikes, many of which have a nice retro flavor, and in this case, the engines are outsourced by Piaggio, which is great, honestly. Though I really love the flat tracker bike that they have, if you're going for like a retro look, I would go no further than the HPS 125 or the HPS 300. There's so many nice little design elements here that these bikes have. They're sort of like a steampunk looking, but my favorite aspect on this bike is these straight handlebars. It almost reminds me of the really old British bikes, like the Vincent Black Shadow and the old Speed Twin. They just had those low, simple, straight handlebars. I'm not seeing horsepower figures, but somewhere else I saw 13.4 for the 125, which is honestly significantly more than the Grom, which I believe produces like 9.7 horsepower. And the 300 produces reportedly about 25 horsepower. Again, not too shabby. Now the standout feature is the weight for me. 320 pounds wet, according to their site, for the 300. That is solid. And under 300, for the 125. Now the Grom only weighs 234 pounds or so wet, so we're not quite in that territory, but we've got more power here with this bike, so I would wager that this could feel faster than a Grom. The 300 is actually a bit more intriguing to me though, because a 125, no matter how much power it's producing, it's gonna feel slow and there's a lot you can't do. So let's look at the price for the 300. So it looks like this will run you about 4,000 euros, so about $4,600. Now that is not bad for a bike that is Italian and is producing solid power and has a really cool retro look. I am a huge fan of this, honestly. Now the dealership network is just throughout Italy and a few surrounding countries, so I'm guessing we can't get one of these here in the US, but who knows, maybe they'd be willing to ship them here, I don't know. Like many of these bikes, you would have no dealer support, but I'm sure this is a simple enough engine for any motorcycle mechanic to work on. So yeah, this one's really cool, but a lot of really nice options on here. Hopefully you guys saw some bikes that you hadn't seen before. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Just like I skipped the intro, I'm just gonna skip the outro. All right, see ya.